everyone. Bonnie here for day 11 of Monaco Bingo, and I'm just gonna give people a few minutes to hop on and see if anybody joins me live today so we can find out what today's stitch is gonna be. Hi Laura, how are you tonight? Whew. We are starting our, the kids had an early dismissal today, so we're kind of starting our vacation, our February vacation. We don't get a full week like a lot of other areas, but we do have like an extended weekend, so that's kind of nice. So we are kicking it off, and I think maybe tonight we'll do a little family movie night. Hi Marilyn, how's everything? Thanks for coming. So, I'm excited to see what we get today. It's like 8 o'clock, but it feels so late. I feel so tired. It's been a long week and it's only Thursday. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and pull it and let's get started. All right, so got our little jar. Getting less and less pieces in there to pull from. See what we get tonight. Okay. The Pekinese stitch. Yes, it's actually already the weekend for us, Marilyn, because I was saying, I think before you hopped on, that our kids have their February vacation right now. So for us, it's already the weekend. So that's nice. So let me get the notes for the Pekinese stitch. And turn the camera around. Where are we? Here we are. Yeah, I think that's good. Yes, lucky, right? Thank God. I'm so glad I don't have to wake up early tomorrow. So tonight's stitch for day 11 is the Pekinese. All right, let me see where I can find that on the sample boards. Okay. So this is the Pekinese stitch. And here's another version that Hannah did. And so the Pekinese stitch, let me see where it is on my board. It's also right there. So that's the Pekinese stitch. Hi Kathleen, I drew today the Pekinese stitch. So that is basically like a back stitch with interlaced loops. So it looks like this. There's a back stitch first, and then we go and we lace through in sort of a circular motion, these little loops, and that becomes the Pekinese stitch. So that is great for like borders or linear borders, or if you wanted to use it as filling, you could do it in tighter rows. A few design tips before I start the demo, in case anybody knows a Pekinese stitch and needs to run. I think what I would say in terms of how you would handle it on your sampler is if you have it in a box with multiple colors, then you can choose to either stitch the back stitch with one color and then lace with the second color, or you could do them both in the same color if you'd like. You can also do it so that it changes. That gets a little bit trickier, but it is possible. So, for example, in this one here, I did it so that it started off orange and then it turned into pink. So it's possible. You could still do it. But that's basically it. You could also stitch it so that you outline the shape. So you don't have to go horizontally or vertically. You could also just kind of go in a curve along the edges if you'd like. So maybe we'll do that today. Since we have the grid and no lines drawn in, we could have a little fun with it and maybe try that. I could do it as a border, outlining that pink leaf shape there. So before we get to our bingo board, let's just show you how it works. So let's do this. I'm going to draw just a line. That's going to be for my back stitch, okay? And I think I'm going to use the blue for that. I'm going to use 3 strands, but you can use however many strands you want. 3 strands using the number 3 embroidery needle. And I'm going to go ahead and make a back stitch to create the foundation for this stitch. Okay. So and I'm going to do it, I guess, in the sewing method to see if I can get this done a little quicker and we could get to the fun part of lacing. I feel like the 8 o'clock ones. How are the times for everyone? Are you guys doing okay with the various times that we've been hopping on? We tried to give you guys a variety so that we could accommodate a lot of different schedules as well as time zones, but I'm curious as to how the different times are working for everyone. So if you have any feedback, please do share. We always welcome feedback. Okay, so here is just a back stitch to start. Oh, it's only the second one you've been able to make. Oh, that's too bad. But you have been able to access all of the recordings, I guess, right? Works great for you, Marilyn? Oh, that's good. Okay, so I'm going to show you first with the back stitch. Then we're going to go ahead and do the lacing. And I think I'm going to start it off with the same blue color, and then I'll switch over to a different color just to show you how that looks with a contrast color. So what you would do is you would then come back up at like the bottom of your last stitch. Okay, so I'm going to come up just below that stitch, and then I'm going to hold this loop down, and I'm going to skip to the next stitch. So not here, but here. I'm going to go underneath, and you can turn your needle around and go under with the eye end first if you are afraid that you might catch the thread or split the thread. But I kind of just pushed up in the back with my finger to create this little mound, and then it allows me to glide that needle under. I just have to do it carefully. I want to be careful I don't get caught on the hardware when I come back around. I'm kind of in a bad spot, I think. Okay, so I come up, and I just went underneath that second stitch, and then I'm going to go back down through the first horizontal stitch. Then you go above, the needle's going to glide over that loop that was along the bottom. Okay. And it makes this little loop. And you can adjust the position or the fullness of the loop. You're going to probably want to play around with it to see how much you want to pull. So, hi Liz. Liz, tonight's stitch is the Pekinese stitch. It's also called the Chinese stitch and the forbidden stitch and who knows whatever else it's called. All these stitches seem to have so many different names, but I think it's pretty commonly known as the Pekinese stitch. Okay, so after I do that first loop, I'm then going to jump again. I'm going to skip this one and go to this second loop under. Okay, and I just hold that working thread down below. Oop, uh-oh, I just unthreaded. That's not good. Yes, a new stitch. This is a fun one. This one almost made it into our cactus sampler, Liz, but we just didn't have enough time to cover that many stitches, so we had to take it out. Okay, so let me get this rethreaded. Okay. All right. Uh-oh, pull that thread back down. Okay, so I'm going to come up, and now I'm going to go back down to the back. It's almost like going to the back. So you started with a back stitch, now we're lacing, and the motion is forward one, then back one. Okay, so now this needle's going to slide over the working thread coming down from the top now, and then pull that down, and it makes a little loop. So it does this sort of like picot looking trim, like little circly loopy things. And again, you can play with the tension, how much you pull, how tightly you pull. If you want it to be laced really tight, then you just pull a little bit tighter. But it's also fun to make them a little looser as well. So let me show you again. I'm skipping this one. I'm going under. Yes, like a pretzel. It does look like a pretzel, Marilyn. Okay, so I'm skipping this one now to under the second one. From the bottom, I'm sliding up and under that stitch. I hold the working thread loop below, and then I'm going to come back to the previous horizontal stitch and slide it down over the loop. Okay, so now pull to finish that lacing. And you can use, I tend to use the back end of the eye end of the needle to then kind of play around with those loops and their tension. Okay, so that would be the third loop. Now I'm going to show you how you can switch colors. I'm going to go back down. Okay, I'm going to tie this off. Hi Oksana, today is the Pekinese stitch. I just finished demoing with lacing through with the same color. I'm going to switch over to a contrast color so you can kind of see the loop a little better. Okay, so the Pekinese stitch is basically a back stitch that's then laced with like a loopy kind of stitch or a loopy kind of lacing motion, and then you get these cute little loop-de-loops. Okay, so I'm going to switch to let's switch to yellow. I think the yellow will show up nicely. Okay. So now what I can do is I will come up where I went back down, and I'm going to just kind of pick up where I left off, okay? So now I'm going to come in with a contrast color. And so I skip this one, and I go to the next stitch under. Okay. Hold that working thread loop below. Hi Nina, we're doing the Pekinese stitch today. Okay, and now I'm going to go back one stitch and under that one, and the needle's going to sit above that loop that's on the bottom, okay? Now, I don't know if it matters. I think that's how I've seen it taught, but I imagine if it doesn't go over and it goes under, it probably isn't that big of a deal. It'll still look the same, but I think what I would tell you to do is to be consistent with it. Today, the thread is hating me. It keeps coming unthreaded, and it's my fault because I'm not holding it, but I think I need to get away from that hardware because it's sort of in my way. Hello, Melissa. Thanks for joining us tonight. Tonight, I pulled the Pekinese stitch. Not sure if this is new for you, but it's a back stitch that is then interlaced with these sort of loopy looking lacing. Okay, so now I'm going to skip this one, go under the second one, and let's just finish this row. Now I have too much thread. Okay, so hold that working thread below. Go back to the last horizontal stitch and underneath it, okay, but then I'm going to slide my needle above this loop and then pull. And I find it helpful to, with my thumb, kind of hold this loop so that as I'm pulling, I'm not changing that tension too much. But again, you can always adjust it afterwards. Just make sure you haven't knotted it off yet, because if you do want to adjust it and you need to pull a little extra thread back, then you don't want to have it knotted yet. Okay, so I'll pull these yellow ones tight so you can kind of see the difference too. So let's pull those even tighter. Let's see how they look. Okay, so I'm going to skip this one, go to the second one, underneath, needle goes to the top, loop, hold the loop on the bottom, jump back to the last stitch. Oh, you're distracted by this. Sorry about my eyeball satin stitch, Kathleen. And then I'm going back to the previous stitch, down under it, but then the needle goes over the loop, and then I pull it tight. So you can see the difference in the loopiness. If you change your tension, your loops can be more exaggerated or much tighter. Okay, so this is kind of a fun stitch, kind of cool. And then I go back down to the back underneath that back stitch, and you can just tie it off in the back. Okay, so let's move to the bingo board itself, and let's see how that works. I'll show you here. All right, now you won't get distracted by the eyeball, okay, Kathleen? No, we're gonna have to like put an eye patch on it next time. All right, let's get this in the hoop. I really like what Hannah did over here on the attached fly and the fly stitch. It's so fun the way she connected those. It's really cool because we're both sharing this sampler, and so, you know, it's like definitely a joint effort, as is all of it with our business, because we are partners and it's just fun to work together and to collaborate like this. Okay, so here it is. I'm gonna do it so that, you know what I think I'm gonna do? I'm going to do a back stitch with the pink, tracing this shape, and then I'm gonna loop it with orange on this side and then with the turquoise on the other side. I think that'll look really cool, but I could be wrong. I haven't done it yet, so I'm envisioning it to be pretty cool. Let's see. So I'm gonna start with my back stitch. So you gotta go all the way around, so bear with me. This could take a little while. All right. Okay. So yeah, play with your stitch lengths, your tension, the loopiness. Just have fun with it. Experiment. We are loving all of the experimentation we're seeing. Oh, you're gonna do the same thing? Okay, cool. Yeah, and then it's just so fun to see everybody's interpretation, and when you're experimenting and playing around with it. Let's see. I'm a little close to the edge of the hoop here, so I've definitely got to do the poke and pull method. So did we ever determine, is that what it's really called? Is it the poke and pull, or are we just making things up? You're not sure now? All right. Well, you can decide later, or you could see how mine turns out. If you don't like it, then you could try something else maybe. So here, when I turn the corner, I'm going to start back in at this point. Okay. And then I'll jump ahead and back. Yeah, I hope it looks cool. But you know what? If it doesn't, that's okay, because it's all about having fun and playing around with it and experimenting. Hi, Nicole. We are doing the Pekinese stitch today. I think my spacing's a bit off, but that's okay. Yeah, I mean, the great thing about these samplers is that it really is just supposed to be playing around and having fun and learning stitches and not worrying so much about how it looks when it's done. Although I have to say, I've been seeing some really amazing stuff from you guys. I love that you're really getting into it and filling up that whole board. But if you're not, that's okay too. It's just like whatever you have time for, whatever you want your stitching practice to look like, that is all great. However it looks for you. Okay, so I'm gonna, gosh, I really don't know what's going on with my thread today. Okay. I don't feel like that made a proper knot. It feels a little weird, but I'm gonna just weave it a few times and then be done with it. Okay, so let's cut that. All right, now I think I'm going to find my orange, and I'm going to do this side in orange. Is that Mary? I think that's Mary who just joined. Mary, we just need to know your colorway. I'm not sure if you answered us yet, but we wanted to get you your PDF. Mary ordered our very last PDF, and we just need her to tell us what color she wants. So let's see. I'm gonna go right underneath that back stitch, the pink back stitch, and start looping. So I skip the first one and I go over to the second one, and I'm gonna go up from the bottom, hold my working thread loop on the bottom there, and then I'm gonna jump back to that first stitch that I skipped, and now my needle is gonna go over the loop. Hold on, let me get a better angle of this so you can really see the mechanics of the stitch. Okay, so I came up underneath the first stitch, jumped over to the second one, went under the bridge, and I'm coming up and around, back down to the first one, back down under that bridge, but the needle goes over the loop, and now I pull to lace it. Okay, and I think I'm going to pull it fairly tight. And let's see, like maybe like that. Okay, so you make your first little loop. Okay. Yeah, so Mary, just tell us what color you want, okay? And then we can get that PDF emailed to you right away. Yeah, so you can do coastal, which is the blues. You can do cottage core, which are like the pastels, or the brights, which is the one I'm stitching up right now. I got so distracted. I'm going to pull that loop back down. So I went under this second stitch, backwards, jump backwards, and back down underneath the first one, or the one that I just skipped, pull, and then there's a second loop. Okay, so now I'm going to hold this working thread, skip this stitch, jump under the next one. Yes, you can most definitely get the brights. I'm going to get that taken care of for you tonight, and then you can expect it at some point either tonight or tomorrow, okay? All right, so I went under this one, went back down under the previous one, needle goes over the loop, then pull. So finish the lacing by pulling that, and again, you can adjust the tension as you'd like. You can make your loops bigger, smaller, whatever look you're going for. And I do encourage you to play around with it and see what look you like best. Okay, so I'm just using the eye end of my needle to pull those loops and adjust them. Okay, now let's finish up this. Do I have to tell you guys everything I'm doing, or are you okay just watching? Because I feel like a broken record now. Okay, so tell me if you need me to explain it again. Okay, pull. And you can either do it with the same color, or you can do it with a contrast color like I'm doing here. I think it's fun with a contrast, but you decide what works for you. Oh, good. Got it. Yeah, I don't want to like keep blabbing and then you guys are like, Bonnie, we get it. Enough already. Okay, I got one more. Okay, and you can lace it with less threads, less strands if you'd like as well. Just decide how thick, I guess, you want that lacing to look. Oh yeah, this one is backstitched with 3 strands. So the pink is 3 strands. Oksana asked how many threads I'm using. So the backstitch was done with 3 strands, and then the lacing right now is done with a full strand. So it's really thick and heavy. But but you can use, like I said, you can use however many strands you want. Just depends how heavy you want that lacing to look. So now I'm gonna reinsert to finish it. I'm gonna go back down to the back, just underneath that back stitch, just like how I started. Okay. So there's the pink and orange combo side. And then let's knot this off. And I'll get to the turquoise one. Maybe I'll do the turquoise one. Well, I kind of want them to be even, so I guess I'm going to still do that with 6 strands. Okay. So let me get the turquoise and do the other side. Now I like to lace it, I'm a righty, I'm going to be lacing from left to right. For our lefties, it may be more comfortable for you to work from right to left, as far as the lacing and the back stitch goes. You decide what works for you. I'm sure the lefties probably automatically adjust, but just in case, I wanted to mention that. So I'm going to start just under that first stitch, skip it, go to the second one, and here we go, we start lacing. And always be mindful not to, hold on. Ooh. Okay. God, I feel like my hands are not listening today. The thread hates me tonight. My hands are not cooperating. But you know what? We're going to just power through. Okay. Not that first one. What I was saying was be careful if you have a lot of fabric left over, either fold it up and just make sure it stays out of the way so you don't end up sewing through it, because believe me, I have done that before and it's no fun. You got to take it all out. So just kind of hold it out of the way, okay? Okay. Now I'm going to skip this one and here we go to the next one. You know what I think it is because this thread, it feels like the strands have been separated and then put all back together. So they're like really loose and like kind of hairy, like very, I don't know, like they're all separated, which is weird. Okay, there we go. So there's that side. And this one is a shorter side, so I don't think there's as many to do. Do you see? They're like, all my strands are in different lengths. Okay. Although it's kind of interesting too when it does that. It's almost like they're the strands are all separated and they're longer, like they cascade more or they dip more. But I actually want them to feel a little more even, so I'm going to tighten that up. Okay. Alrighty, almost done. And as I said before, you can do rows of this, and then it would create like stacked rows of this, and then you could have them be more like fill areas. Or you can just use them like I'm doing now and outline things as like a border stitch or something a little more linear. Okay, I think I can fit maybe one more. Hold that loop. Okay, and then to finish, I'm just gonna go back down in here. Okay, so again, I'm just using the eye end. There you go. What do you think? I don't know, it's kind of cool, different, but so that's it. That is the Pekinese stitch for day 11. And tomorrow, tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow I will be back, I believe, at 2 o'clock. We get a break on Saturday, and then we keep going. We're moving along, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Have a good evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.